Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Ifoma. In today's we are going to be making this trendy top and skirt. Now to begin, we are going to start by cutting the skirt part of this dress. Now to do that, I have my fabric on fold. I have my fabric folded into four. Actually, I cut them out, and then I have each of them folded. So, and I left my zip allowance. As you can see, that place is my zip allowance. Endeavor to always leave your zip allowance at the back side of your dress. Now to begin, first thing I have to do is to measure the length of the skirt I'm making. And the skirt I'm making, I'm using 25 inches. I'm using 25 inches to that is the length of the skirt I'm cutting. All right, actually it's not going to be up to this length, but you will see. Just look very carefully and you're going to see how I'm going to do it. Then after measuring the length, the next thing I'm going to do is to draw a straight line across those places I marked. It's going to help us get a very straight line. Endeavor to always use your ruler when you're cutting, especially if you are a beginner. Now, the next thing I have to measure is my hip. From my waist to my hip measurement, I use 8 inches. I'm not a very tall person, but I am up to 5.8. So if you're up to 6 inches, make sure you use 9 inches from your waist to your hip measurement. If you are less, you can use 7. Then after measuring that 18, the next thing I have to do is to take measurement of my waist, and the waist I'm working with is 29 inches. So I will put in 29 inches divided by 4. So I'm going to mark 29 inches divided by 4. Put in, and I put my 1.5 inches sewing allowance. Then I come down to my hip measurement. I also divided my hip measurement into 4 parts, and I added my 1.5 sewing allowance. The reason I'm adding a 1.5 sewing allowance is that half inches is for me to turn the line in, and then the 1 inch is for the shaping. Then I come to the down part and I add my hip measurement divided by 4 without adding any sewing allowance. I will not add any sewing allowance to it. It's going to aid us to get a curve at the hip. I'm going to put my hip measurement with no sewing allowance. So as you can see, after I was done measuring it and curving it, this is what I have. So this is basically all the measurement you need for this pencil skirt. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to mark out the folding. Now remember, I marked 25 inches as the full length, but the full length of the skirt I'm making is 22 inches. So the 3 inches is for the folding. So that is what I'm marking now. I'm marking out the 3 inches for the folding at the down part of the dress, and I'm going to use my ruler to make a straight line across the 3 inches I just marked. Then after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to cut it out. So when I was done cutting it out, next thing I'm going to do is to notch the 3 inches I just marked. So that is all for the down part of this dress, and I'm also going to notch the zipper allowance. That place I'm notching is going to help us know where the zipper allowance starts. Then just as always, I'm going to open the zipper allowance because it's still on fold. It doesn't have any opening there. So after that, that is all for the skirt part. I'm going to fold it and keep it aside. Then after the down part, the next thing I'm going to cut is the top, the upper part of the dress, the top part of the dress. And to do that, I also have my fabric folded into 4 places, leaving out my zip allowance as usual. Please, never you forget to leave out a zip allowance. So after that, the next thing I'm going to mark is the length of this, and the length of the top I'm making is 20 inches, but I'm marking 21 inches for the allowance. No, the top I'm making is 19 inches. I'm marking 20 inches. That 1 inch is the sewing allowance, 5 inches for the turning of the down, and 0.5 inches for the turning of the down, and 0.5 inches for the holding of the shoulder. After marking it, I also, as usual, use a ruler to draw a straight line, and I'll start taking my measurements. So the first measurement I'm going to take is the neck measurement. I want this to be a very high-waisted, I want it to be a very high neck. So I'm going to measure it. First, I'm going to input my shoulder measurement. My shoulder measurement is 15, so I'm going to put 8 inches. It's supposed to be 7.5, but I'm going to put 8. That 1 inch is for the sewing allowance for the both shoulders, 0.5 each for each shoulder. So I'm going to, after putting in that, I'm going to measure my armhole. But first, I'm going to minus 1 inch on my shoulder to get a shoulder slope. Then after that, I'm going to mark my armhole. My the armhole I'm using is 9 inches. If you are not as tall as me, you can use 8 inches. So I used 2.5 inches for the neck, or you can use 3. It depends on how high neck you want your cloth to be. I used 2.5 by 2.5. That is for the front neck. After that, I'm going to put in the measurement of my bust divided by 4, and I added a 1.5 sewing allowance. Because this is a straight top, it has no curve. I'm not going to input my under bust measurement or my waist measurement to it. It's just my bust measurement, and I'm going to cut it on a straight line. So the next thing I'm going to do is to rule my shoulder line down to my bust line, and then after doing that, I'm going to connect my shoulder slope to the neck. Then after doing that, I'm going to find the center of my armhole line, come in by 1 inch, and then connect. That curve on the armpit is going to aid it to relax in the front. It's going to help your armhole relax, because our armhole is not straight. If you don't understand, just watch closely to what I'm doing. Then that is the zip allowance. I'm going to use 1 inch for my zip allowance. So after marking this out, I'm going to mark the back neck as well, and I used 1 inch for the neck of the back, because remember I said what I'm making is going to be a high neck cloth. Then the next thing I'm going to do is to curve the back. To do that, you're going to find the middle of your back, the zip allowance, then you are going to come in by 0.5 inches. Our back is not straight. Then just cut it out. The next thing I'm going to do is to start cutting out my neckline. While cutting the neckline, endeavor you cut just the front for the deep side, and while cutting the armhole, I also cut the front separately, then cut the back armhole separately, because they are not going to be the same. The front armhole is always deeper than the back armhole. After cutting it, this is what I have. And that is all for the top. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut the sleeve. As you can see, the sleeve I already have it folded into 4 as usual. And then the length of the sleeve I'm cutting is 33 inches. You know, the sleeve is a very long one, and it's not a straight sleeve, it's a bell sleeve. It's a funnel sleeve, so it's not straight, it's kind of wide on the down part. So I'm going to measure in the length of the sleeve I'm cutting, which is 33 inches, that I'm going to start drafting my sleeve. Guys, the next video that's going to be dropping on my channel is how to draft your sleeve, how to draft the sleeve using the standard sleeve drafting method. So because of this video, for the sake of this video, I'm just going to cut my sleeve without wasting much time, and then endeavor to check out that video. It's going to drop soon. So what you have to do is to like and subscribe on my channel to get notified. Turn on the notification bell, so immediately I drop any video like this, you're going to get the notification. So after inputting all the measurements I need for this sleeve, I told you that it's not going to be a straight sleeve, it's going to be a funnel sleeve. That is why you are seeing it like this. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut it out. Watch the way I'm cutting it. You see, it's a funnel sleeve. And then I'm going to notch the center of this sleeve. So that is all for this sleeve. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cut the line. I was supposed to cut the line in off camera, but there's something I want to show us in this skirt part. Remember, I left 3 inches for the folding. Then while cutting the line, we are going to cut the lining from that 3 inches. Just watch what I'm doing. After folding it, what you're going to leave on your fabric is 1.5 or 1 inches, depending on how you are sewing. I left 1 inch on my own, but I'm going to use something very tiny to sew it. You're going to make your clothes, the folding of your clothes, 1 inch longer than where you are starting to cut your lining. Just watch what I'm doing closely, you are going to understand. You see, the lining is longer a bit than where the front of the folding of this cloth starts. Then what I did was to cut every other one off camera, and I gummed it. I put gum stay. I used the medium gum stay for it. So after gumming it, what I'm going to do is to start turning the lining for each of the clothes. And to turn this skirt part, what you're going to do is place your lining and your fabric right side facing each other, and you're going to use 0.5 inches to turn your lining. And the first part you are going to turn is this down part. You're going to make a straight line. You're going to turn it straight on the down part using 0.5 inches. You're going to sew it straight like this. And then after sewing it, the next thing I'm going to do is to come to where you put your notch, that your 3 inches notch. You're going to fold it in like this, making the 3 inches you left to be the continuation of the lining of your clothes. So when you turn it, you're going to be seeing your fabric on the down part, inner side of your dress. I don't know if you understand it, but just look closely on the video, you're going to understand it. Then after doing that, you're now going to sew in the rest, making it the lining and the fabric equal. After doing that, you're going to also turn the upper part, but there's nothing special in turning the upper part. It's just to input your lining and your fabric right side facing each other. You're going to use 0.5 inches to turn the neck, the side, and the down part, leaving just the armpit. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and I'll do just that. So after I was done turning it, as you can see, I sew in my hemming gum. It's going to help me and make my work easier when I'm ironing it. I sew in my hemming gum on the upper part and on the neck of the top. I also sew in hemming gun on the down part of my skirt. It's going to make it easier for me when I'm ironing it. So after I was done, the next thing I did was to iron it out. But when I was turning it, I forgot that I was supposed to put a bishop neck on this particular upper part, this particular top. So I just loosed, what I did was just to lose the neckline and I left it unturned. So if you're not going to put a bishop neck on your own, turn your neckline and iron it. After I was done ironing it, I kept the skirt part aside and I started working with the top first. So the first thing I need to do is to join the shoulder. Join your shoulder using 0.5 inches. So when I was done joining the shoulder, this is what it looks like. I just gave it a nice press. Sewing and pressing goes hand in hand. Pressing your dress in every step makes your work nice and neat. So after that, the next thing I did was to fold in my sleeve with 0.5 inches. I folded it very tiny, and then I'm going to sew it into my dress, starting from the center. Remember, we notched the center of the sleeve, so you're going to sew it into your armhole, starting from the center. But mine, I wanted it to have a little puff, so I added an extra allowance when I was cutting the sleeve. So when I was done attaching it, I went ahead to weave it to make it very neat. And then that is all for the joining of the sleeve. The next thing I'm going to do is to fix the zipper. As you can see, the zip allowance is not straight. It's going to make it to be very relaxed. Then after fixing the zipper, this is what it looks like. As you guys can see, this is already looking beautiful. So the next thing I'm going to do is to shape my top. I'm going to shape my top. I'm going back to the sewing machine and I'm going to shaping it. So when I was done shaping it, I just opened in the shaping and I ironed it. Like I said, sewing and ironing goes hand in hand. If I turn it, it's going to make it to relax. That ironing is going to make it to relax and give it all the shape, all the nice shape it intends to have. You see how relaxed it looks. So the next thing I'm going to do is to sew in my bishop neck. Measure your round neck. So I already have a video of how to make a bishop neck up on my channel. I already have this video. Go ahead and check it in my channel. I already have that video posted on my channel. Go ahead and check it out. You're going to understand how I came out with that bishop neck. Then after that, I'm just going to match that bishop neck, and that is all for the top. And then going back to the skirt is almost done. So just to put the band, the zip, shape it, and that will be all. So to start with the skirt, first I'm going to do is to cut the band. So this particular skirt, I want to put in a triangular band. That triangular band helps it to relax on your waist. It's going to show all your shape. It's going to relax on your waist. Triangular band is very nice. It's very beautiful. It's the best band you can put on your skirt. So to cut it, I'm also going to drop a step-to-step guide, a more detailed step on how to cut this triangular band on my channel soon. So but to cut it, you are going to divide your waist measurement into two. I'm working with waist 29 divided into 2. So what you're going to add 3 inches to give you this line I just drawn. You're going to add 3 inches to it to give you that line, and I want my band to be 2 inches. I'm going to add 2 inches to that line. I'm just going to cut it out. Then this band I just cut out. I'm going to cut 4 of it. 2 for the front and 2 for the back. So while cutting the back, I left in 1 inches for the zip allowance, as you can see. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to start gumming it. I used cloth gum, the medium cloth gum, to cut it. And the next thing I'm going to do is to start gumming it to my fabric. At the back side of my fabric, the wrong side of my fabric, I'm going to start gumming it. By gumming it, ensure you leave allowance for the sewing. So when you're cutting it out, you're going to see allowance to add to the cutting. As you can see, I left space in all of them. That is where I'm going to cut. I'm going to leave in 0.5 inches sewing allowance to each of this piece. 0.5 sewing allowance. Because this is your exact band, this is the exact size of your band and the length. So that 0.5 inches is what you're going to use to sew it. As you can see, I left 0.5 inches round each piece. So after doing that, the next thing I'm going to do is to go over to my sewing machine and I'm going to sew them together. I'm going to put in each one right side facing each other. For the back, this is the back. Then I'm going to sew the side and the up with that 0.5 sewing allowance, leaving the down. The down is the wider part of it, and that is the part you're going to attach to your skirt. So this up, we are going to sew it using that 0.5 sewing inches allowance you left. So it's very close, not on top, very close to your band. So after sewing it, this is what I have. I'm going to notch it so that it will make it relax, and I'm going to turn it and I'm going to give it a nice press. So for the back part of the band, you are going to divide it into 2 because you have a zip at the back. Divide into 2, go back to the sewing machine and then use 0.5 inches to sew that place back, and then you are going to turn it, flip it back, and you're going to iron it. So after doing that, it's time to attach the band to the skirt. Our work is almost done, guys. So you're going to notch the center of this skirt you're making. You're going to find the center of it, as you see me doing. Then you're going to notch also the center of the band. This one is the front part of the skirt. This one is the front part of the skirt, and this one is the front part of the band. You're going to notch in the center. Find in the center. I'm just trimming out the excess allowance. You're going to notch in the center and going to place it on your skirt, right side facing each other, and then you're going to make the notches to be equal at the center. You're going to start from the center to sew it using 0.5 inches. Start from the center, sew it to the both sides from the center. Going to do the same for the back. Then after sewing it, this is what we have. As you can see, this is looking beautiful. When you wear this, the band is going to hug you on your waist and going to show your shape. That is why I love using the triangular band. So the next I'm going to do is to sew in the zipper. So after sewing in the zipper, as usual, I'm going to give it a very nice press. Never underestimate the power of pressing. Always press your clothes while you sew it. It's going to aid your clothes to relax. So after that, the next thing I'm going to do is to shape my skirt. Guys, our work is almost done. Once you shape the skirt, that will be all for the dress. After shaping it, of course, I'm going to give it a nice press. So guys, that is all for this beautiful piece, this beautiful top, trendy top and skirt. Please do well to subscribe if you are new, and if you are old, thank you for coming back. Hit the subscribe button, like, share, turn on the notification bell to get notified anytime I drop a video like this. And if you have a difficult style that you want us to cut and sew, that you want us to show how it is made, kindly drop it on the comment section, guys. Thank you for coming.